All right, about the third time I'm making this video. I'm trying to make it simple as possible without screwing it up. Okay, like and subscribe if this helps you. Okay, this is going to be set at your piston size. You're going to measure from here over to that point. Those 2 points right there, straight across. That's where you're going to get your measurement. Now, you're going to use this to set this at 0 for your piston. That's what you're doing. You're setting this at the 0 of this piston. None of that other stuff matters. You can stick this down inside your bore anytime you want to. Put the little things on there that you can check your stuff, move it back and forth. I'm just trying to simplify. You can go through and do that to check your bore size of what you need to get your piston. You can do that. But what I'm telling you is how to set this to your piston size to know to get your bore size. So what you're doing is this is set at your piston size, okay? That's going to give you your piston size. You're going to go to the smallest one of these that will actually fit in between this. If it does not touch, then you went too small. You want it to where you got enough that it just barely pushes in. You see this thing? It'll barely push in. You want it as close as you can just to push in a little bit. Okay, now you're going to set this thing at 0. When you push that thing, you'll put this thing in a vise. It'll be, if you don't have two people or a person helping you, put this in a vise. Be easy with it. Don't tweak on it. Don't bend it, because then you knock it out of square. What you're going to do is, once you get that in between there, you're going to put one of these on there, and that's going to be close to your piston size. And then when you shove that thing down in there, it's going to push over on this button. Okay, you're going to put one of them rods in there, and this thing's going to go in there like this. And that little point you see is going to be on one end or the other, and you're going to run that in there, and that big long, one of the big long rods will come over, and it'll push in on that, and that'll give you this thing to move a little bit. It shouldn't move. It should move all the way around. You're using too long one if you're doing that. It should just move enough to get you away from the starting point. And let's just say it's about a quarter move. Should be close. Should be about right in there. Okay. So what you're going to do is that number that you're going to be pointing at when you're in between here, when between this here, is going to be your piston size. Okay. Because that's what you set this thing at. It's your piston size. And then once you get to that, it's in between here and it's pushed over. Let's just say it's about right in there. It's pushed over. Let's just say it's hitting on 0. That we set this thing at 0. So when it's in between there, it's at 0. So that's your piston size. That's what you're zeroing out on. Okay, now what that does for you is, because your piston size is going to be bigger than your bore size because you have not bored it out yet. Okay, so your piston size is that. So what's going to happen is when you put it down in your bore, you're actually going to be up. It's going to push the button in further. So you're going to be away from your bore. And as you take material out, that needle, every time you check it, should be moving toward that 0. And once you're right on that 0, about right in there, that's going to be your bore size. That's going to be your piston size. So that's what you're aiming at, is your piston size. Now, depending on your specs for your piston, like Wiseco, I think, is 3/1000 piston to wall clearance. So you're going to have to go beyond that 0 once you keep honing. Get the right hone, you can hone 2/3,000 out easy. So what you're headed for is another 3/1000 past that. So you want to always check your bore size every so often, because you don't want to go past 3/1000, because you're going too big and then you'll get piston slap and you'll get oil consumption. So I hope that kind of makes it a lot easier. I'm not telling you what all these numbers are. I think each one of them things, it says it's by 1/1000th of an inch. So each thing is 1/1000th of an inch. So that's what you're taking off every time. So remember, you do your piston size first. It does not matter what your bore size is right at the moment, as long as your bore size is not bigger than your piston that you're boring for. That's the only reason why you want to measure this stuff is like, let's just say you got pistons in there and you don't know what size pistons you got. Well, you want to check this to make sure it's within spec of a certain piston, and then you can look it up online, find your specs of 20 over, 20 thousandths over, 30 thousandths over. That's the only time you need that. But once you find out, hey, I need to go 30 over, then once you figure that out, you need the piston size of the piston that you're going to be boring to. And that's where this thing comes in. And then once you set that to your piston, then you'll set this thing to 0 on this, and that'll be your piston size on this. And of course, like I said, you'll 0 that thing out and your piston size will be at 0. Going through this one more time, your piston thing will be at 0. And that'll be your piston size. I'm trying to get it here with my finger. And your bore size is actually going to be a little bit bigger, so your hand's going to go that way a little bit. And as you take material out and you keep checking, it's going to keep creeping that way every time you check it. And then when you're exactly on 0, you're right on it. And then all you have to do is whatever your piston specs, if you're running turbo or whatever, you run the manufacturer specs. If you have to go 3 thousandths, which is usually common, 2,500 to, or 2,025, 3,000 or 3 thousandths of an inch, whatever. That's what you're going to set your piston to wall clearance at. So I hope you liked the video. I hope that simplified it to make sure that you can use one of these, because a lot of people sit there and you'll see videos of guys, they'll just put that, oh, this is how you check your stuff, and then they're back and forth, not telling you nothing. They're just checking back and forth, checking your cylinders, which, if you're checking to see what size piston you need, that's fine. But when you get you know what piston size you need, because this is a 20 over, and you know what that is, then you'll check that and you'll get all this stuff working together. You need these two things right here, and of course a bore or a honing thing. So I'll do more videos up to date as I go. Like I said, I'm not no machinist. I'm just learning from the bottom, and I'm simplifying this for you to understand the basis of this without going through the numbers. But this is what you do, and then you can figure out the numbers on your own. You get your papers and stuff that tells you everything. So hope this helps someone. Thanks for watching.